Welcome to another Leadership Conversation, hosted by the Center for Executive Succession at the Darla Moore School of Business. I'm your host, Anthony Nyberg, and today we are speaking with Diane Creel. Diane has served as the Chairman, CEO, and President of Ecovation, Inc., and she was the first woman to hold the CEO position of a publicly held engineering firm in the U.S. She serves on the boards of directors of Allegheny Technologies, Inc., where she is the lead director, Enpro Industries, Timken Steel, H.W. Lochner, and Lipscomb University. She has previously served on the boards of Capital Research Management American Funds, the URS Corporation, Teledyne, Foster Wheeler, Rohr Aeronautics, the Goodrich Corporation, and Glendale Federal Bank. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's a sincere treat and pleasure to have you down here with us.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be here. Be home again.
Oh, welcome home, yes. Can you just share with us a little bit about what you think of as some of the responsibilities of being a director on particularly a publicly traded company?
The list gets longer and longer. You know, it's very difficult sometimes as directors. Let me just start with this statement, and then I'll answer in more detail. It's very hard as a director to balance shareholder needs, management needs, and employee needs. You know, a lot of public companies believe that, hey, if shareholders are happy, life is good. But having just shareholders happy doesn't mean you got happy management or happy employees. So it's really a tough balance. And the regulatory environment today make it more difficult to create that balance because the regulatory agencies are trying to play the part of the shareholder. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. And so they give you these bad ratings or they give you a ding because you pay your CEO too much or there's too much room between your CEO and your lowest paid employee in terms of compensation, or that they don't think you manage your risk properly, which is one of the biggest jobs of a board is to manage risk, and risk related to keeping management in place, risk related to capital expenditures and whether the shareholder believes you're spending money on the right things or not, and really risk associated with everyday business decisions, you know, and your clients. Your clients is the other group that you have to keep happy because if you don't have any clients, you don't have any business.
So do you think of that risk mitigation as the board's most important responsibility, or are there others that you?
I think risk mitigation is at the top. I won't say it's number one or number two, but it's at the top, and it comes to me right behind keeping the right management in place and keeping the strategic focus of the company. So, you know, every company says they have a strategic focus. I'm not sure that they all do, but they all say, hey, you know, we got a strategic focus. Look at this 50-page report here about our strategic plan. The real issue is how you live it. And if you deviate from it, why should you deviate from it? And it's the board's responsibility to say, well, okay, let's deviate from it because we believe that this market is going to be good, or that you know this particular process we work on with the metals, like at ATI, we need to advance that because our clients want the most advanced technology they can get. So, you know, those kinds of things weigh into those decisions. So risk and keeping management and clients all happy is part of it.
And you are currently the lead director on.
I am the lead director,
and about to become chair
right.
of the board. Can you share a little bit about what the differences in responsibility are from being a lead director as opposed to one of the other members?
Sure. You know, the SEC usually requires that when you have a chairman and CEO, same person, that you have a lead director because they're looking for an independent lead director that can help lead the board in the right decisions because the chairman obviously has some vested interest in certain decisions as a CEO. So it's sometimes very hard to separate that. Are you acting as the CEO or are you acting as the chairman? A lot of boards now split that position, but as a lead director, I have executive sessions with the board on a regular basis. I'm sort of the go-between between the board and the CEO and the chairman. So if they don't like something that he's doing, I'm of course the one who has to go tell him, and or they want to change something, then I need to talk to him about that. And board succession is critical too as a lead director. And our current CEO succession was critical because as a lead director, I had to lead that process.
And so you talked about a number of things that you have to be careful about risk, and some of that was management and employees and actually investments that the company is making. One of the things you didn't mention was kind of running the board itself. Is that a tricky proposition in itself, or do they run really smoothly and autonomously?
Well, I think it depends on the board.
Okay.
Some companies have very collegial boards. Some companies not so collegial. My view is that you have the right board if you can settle on the best decision for the company. And there are going to be differences of opinion, and some people are going to say, we want to do this. Others are going to say, we want to do that. And you go, okay, well, let's stop and think about this a minute. Why do you want to do that? Or why do you want to do this? Is it in the best interest of the company? And if it is, let's do it. If it isn't, it's just something that you feel is important, and then maybe we don't do it.
So is that how you get consensus among the board?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because boards are really interesting. From the outside, they're mysterious.
They're tricky.
Right? And because we have no idea, we never see them, right?
Right.
Unless we're board members. Do they function like other groups or teams that we would think of, or are they unique?
Well, I think they usually function as a team. You hope they do. I mean, basically what we try to do when we choose board members, and we have board members, is we have a matrix that says we want certain board members that are experienced in marketing, certain board members that are they're finance experts, and operational experts, and manufacturing experts. And so we want a cross-section on our board of the capability that it really takes to run the business. So we get good input there, depending upon the subject. I've been on boards when dissident shareholders did things like split up the company and things like that, and I don't think that's the right role for shareholders necessarily. I think those are board decisions and board roles, and board knows better than shareholders. The shareholders basically very interested in their stock price, and I get that. I totally get that. I'm very interested in mine too. But it's sometimes can't be the most important decision.
So speaking of decisions, is there a way to kind of generalize or think about how boards make decisions as a group, or is it really idiosyncratic by the question being asked or the board itself?
Again, we try to make decisions in the best interest of the company. We try to choose a new CEO that we think will be best to run the company. We try to invest in capital improvement programs that will lead us to be able to better satisfy our clients and to provide what they need so that we can continue to grow and continue to be profitable. Most boards that I'm on that I have been on, although I've been a few that haven't been, but most of them have been very wanting to do the best thing, very much wanting to do the best thing, and very much working together to come to the best decision.
And so does it work out, it's very committee-driven, that you'll have like the comp committee and they will bring proposals to the board and then be discussed? Because from the outside, everything is
Right.
always unanimous.
Right.
So I'm wondering, are there lively debates inside that we can't see?
We don't like things to not be unanimous. Sure. Because the shareholders don't like to look at the proxy and say, oh, well, only 6 of the 9 board members voted for this. Right. So we like for things to be, to have consensus. But it takes a while to get there. It's not an instant decision usually. So you have the comp committee, and they bring, really the comp committee's main role is to take care of the CEO and to make sure he's not overpaid or she's not overpaid or underpaid, but is paid competitively. And then most of the time you take the recommendations of the CEO for the rest of the team, the executive team, and below that you don't get into it as a board. You may take the top 6 to discuss that. In the nominating and governance committee, we try to keep, we have what we call a governance dashboard, where here are all the things that we should be looking to as directors and what's important in governance today. and we kind of make sure we're covering those. And then we make sure we have good director succession planning so that if you got 2 or 3 directors retiring in 1 year, and one's a sitting CEO and one's a financial expert, and those kinds we try to balance our new directors with those capabilities, and we try to find similar capabilities. And always new directors are great. The FCC doesn't always like long-term directors like myself. I've been around like ATI since '96. They go, oh, no, that's not good. But then we have directors that have been here a year, and sometimes you need that history, and that's pretty good perspective. The main thing is you don't get senile on the job, but that you stay around long enough that you do have the history and to help make decisions, because we've made some mistakes in the past and we don't want to make them again.
But clearly working in your world right now for ATI, so that's going well.
Right. And my other boards, I have 7 years on one, and I was on the Timken board before it split into Timken Steel and Timken Bearings. Before that, I was on the Goodrich board, which sold to UTI for about 20 years. I was acquired with the Rohr Aeronautical Group out of California as a board member there. And so I was a long time on the Goodrich board, which is a great company and a great board, and other boards that I've been on that I don't really look at longevity as an issue. I look at focus and ability to contribute and ability to make contributions that help make the company successful.
And you talked a little about the importance of getting the right people on the board,
right,
from board succession planning, basically, for
right,
board members. What is the process of who ultimately gets the final say?
The nominating of committee makes a recommendation to the board, and then the board gets the final say as a total group. And usually the way the process works, because we're involved in that right now because we have several directors that are retiring fairly soon in a couple of my boards, is you get a search firm or you get people to recommend people that they know, which is the way I like the best, because if they've worked with them before and had experience with them, it's much more valuable than a search firm can get you sometimes. Then you review the resumes with the Nom and Gov committee. You bring them in to meet the Nom and Gov committee. You bring them in to meet management, and then ultimately you bring them in to meet the whole board to kind of see if the culture's right and the personality's right and the attitude is right, and that they're going to blend well and not be a thorn in somebody's side. One of the things that I find as a lead director that is most difficult in bringing in new directors sometimes, particularly if they don't have a lot of board experience, they still act like a manager and not a director. And that can be very detrimental to a board. If you're focusing on the minutia and you're not focusing on the bigger picture and what needs to be done.
So one of the things that, of course, is talked about a lot now is the importance for increasing diversity on boards.
Right.
And you just talked about the importance of, or you said one of the ways you like reaching out to board members is who people know. And
right.
How do you reconcile the fact that most boards are so heavily, particularly male and white male at that, with trying to reach out kind of in that way to increase diversity also, if diversity is even important on a board?
Well, diversity is very important, because I think the more diverse your board members are, the better input you get. And I believe that 100%, and it doesn't matter whether you come from a different culture or you're male or female or what. That diversity gives you different perspectives that I think are absolutely critical to a board. I will say that in my early years of being a director, I was usually always the one and only woman director. That's not true now. And, sometimes the companies have women CEOs now and women directors and diverse directors from different cultures, and I think it makes better boards.
So can you talk a little bit about what that was like, being the only woman on the boards all the time? And it's pretty challenging, or what industries that people wouldn't always associate with being women directors.
Well, it's like the head of the United Steelworkers said to me when I became the lead director, like at ATI, he said, "I know you're the only woman lead director in the steel business, metals business in the United States." And then when I was named the incoming board, he goes, "And I now know for sure you're the only chairman of the board in the steel or metals business." But I've always been in that situation. I am a journalism major who ran engineering firms most of my career. Okay, so I've always been the minority. I'm a minority because I was a woman, minority because I was a journalism major, minority because I came out of marketing, which nobody likes, and on and on you can go. So that's sort of been my fate in life. So it's pretty easy for me as a board member because that's the way I grew up, so to speak.
Well, how about when you look around at others? Because we know a lot about how challenging it is to be, especially if you're the only one of any group to join any kind of a team. Do those same dynamics play out on boards, or is it somehow different because you're all so successful by the time you get to a board?
Well, not necessarily. They play out, the dynamics do play out in some boards. They're still, I see it less and less now, particularly as we get more women and more diversity on the board.
So diversity begets diversity.
Yes, it does. Okay. And all of a sudden they realize, hey, you do know something and you do have something to contribute or you wouldn't be here. And so let's let them contribute. But, I wouldn't say it's always been easy.
No, I wouldn't think so. But really, even just in the last 5 years, you've seen a big transition that way.
Well, we've made a big push on boards, as you know, to get more diversity, as you mentioned. Now California has decided that if you're a California company, you have to have a woman on your board. I'm not sure I agree with that concept, is that you have to have these people if they're not qualified. Now, if they're qualified, I'm there. I'm 100% there.
Are there any specific challenges that women face on these boards now that are unique to being women?
I don't think so anymore.
We're really past that.
I don't feel it anymore. Let's put it that way.
Maybe, is that just because you're in charge now?
Yeah, maybe I just bully my way right through. I don't feel it so much anymore. And I see new women directors coming on boards, like my Impro board in Charlotte. We have a new woman director there, and I see her asserting herself right away in the first meeting. Usually, they kind of stand back and wait to see where their place is and what they should say and shouldn't say, but I don't see that anymore.
So can we get to some sort of parity, do you think, anytime soon? Where it gets to be, you say 3 people on a board it's amazing. Yeah, 3 women on a board is amazing from where we were. But do you see us getting to a spot where we're getting closer to 50%?
Well, I believe, again, that the best people should be the best people. Okay? And if you get to 50%, great. If you get to 75%, that's wonderful. But if you're at 30% or 40%, that's okay too. So I don't necessarily see quotas or that sort of thing as what makes a good board or a good director. I think, if you're really good at something you do and you have something really important to bring to the board and to the company, male, female, different culture, it doesn't matter.
Well, and as you said, that probably helps decision-making on the boards also.
It does. It makes you a better board, I think. I truly believe it makes a better board.
I truly believe that it was sensational having you here today. So thank you for coming home and for talking to us today.
Thank you for having me. I hope I answered some of your questions.
Fabulously.
Okay.
You just listened to another leadership conversation. Today, Diane shared her views regarding what it is like to serve on corporate boards and the responsibilities of serving on a board. Diane has a remarkable history. As the first woman chairman of the board in the steel or metals business, she is truly a trailblazer. On behalf of all of us who are associated with the Master of Human Resources program and the Center for Executive Succession here at the University of South Carolina, thank you for joining us.